All right, we are here live with Artie Kamiya, one of the nation's leading best physical educators. This is a podcast that I've created called Teaching, Coaching, and Training, or Teach, Coach, and Train, which gives individuals like students in the college setting or coaches, trainers, and teachers that are already in the setting some perspective on some of the leading professionals in our field, and cross-breeding or selecting these fields on purpose, because I see many trainers that become physical educators. I see many physical educators that become strength coaches. And it always interests me why people choose their path, stay in their path, or switch to different paths. So we're here with Artie Kamiya. Artie, if you want to just give us a little bit of background about you, and then maybe tell us how you got to the position you're in right now.
Sure, Jordan. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me to chat with you. I know as a new parent, a new daddy, you're swamped. So thank you very much for doing this. I became a physical education teacher out of circumstances, and I'll explain that to you. What that means is this. When I was in 10th grade in high school, there are three of us that used to walk to school and back from our little neighborhood to John Marshall High School in Los Angeles, California, and back. So one Tuesday, I'm waiting for my friends at the corner to walk back home, and they didn't show up. And I said, hey, the next day I said, hey, you guys stood me up. I said, what's happening? And they said, well, we joined the gymnastics team. I said, you did what? We joined the high school gymnastics team. Why don't you join us? And I said, well, okay, nothing else to do. And as it turns out, Jordan, I was pretty good in gymnastics. I did gymnastics in high school, and I did gymnastics in college. And I was fortunate enough when I was a senior in college to go to the NCAA National Men's Championships on the rings. And that was my love, sport and gymnastics. All I wanted to do was coach until I started teaching. And then I saw my real purpose. My real purpose is to be a teacher first, a coach second. I loved coaching and I loved teaching. So I think that's how that started.
Nice. And when I read your bio, it said that you were a very enthusiastic and excited person. Now, I know there's a lot of people that might be introverted, or maybe that type B personality that might not have that edge. Can that be developed? And if so, how has yours developed throughout time? Being enthusiastic, being excited, and having that energy when maybe you don't feel well that day. Not everything's going that great, but you're able to kind of fight through it.
Yeah, you just have to bring your A game. You just have to. If you have concerns and problems at home, you need to put them in a box, shut the lid, lock the door, and bring your A game, because your athletes, your clients, your kids deserve your very best. Mm-hmm. And that's just what I've told myself, and that's what I taught myself, and that's what I saw. Mm-hmm. When I saw my fellow physical education teachers and coaches doing that, that allowed me to become a better person.
Yeah, and sometimes I see every class as an opportunity, like a Super Bowl almost. It's like, This is it. This is the class. This is, this could be the time where, they get the most out of it, or this could be a chance to really develop one person that you haven't been able to throughout, the time that you've been working with your students. But, when I run my classes or programs, or anytime I teach physical education, especially, I look at it like this is the Super Bowl. Like, this is, we've prepared for this, let's, you got to have that fire with you, or that passion a little bit when you're teaching. Otherwise, how can people endure that, feel burnout? I know a lot of people get burnout in the first couple of years, is it because they're going into it too fast? They're not taking the right protocols, or why are people getting burnt out in the field, in your opinion?
Well, it might be an improper fit. They may have found themselves in a profession, coaching, training, teaching, that just they thought it was a good fit, but as it turns out, it was not a good fit.
Hmm.
That could be the case. Um, they could be overwhelmed at work or overwhelmed at home and not being able to find the correct balance. But typically, I find that if you're in love with life and you like seeing successes within your relationships at home and at work, you'll never burn out. I don't believe in burnout. I just don't.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a lot of times when I used to go to schools and as a substitute teacher, interim teacher, intern, and I've had all the titles. Um, I used to go in the lunchroom with the teachers, and I would always hear, "I'm so burnt out," or "It's just too much," and it was like I was like, I don't even want to be in this environment. It's too negative.
Right, right. There's a there's an old saying that I'm going to paraphrase William Shakespeare. How about that?
There you go.
Yeah, William Shakespeare. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown. Heavy lies the head that wears the crown. And what that means is this: as a leader, you have heavy responsibility to do your best, and you need to step up. As a coach, as a personal fitness trainer, as a teacher, we need to realize that there are decisions and struggles that we need to bear, not our students, not our athletes. We need to bear them. And that's hard. That's very, very hard. Um, like I said, I don't believe in burnout. I know there are people that have burned out and really, really good educators that have found difficulty in the struggle. But perhaps you need to take a different perspective of what that crown is and what it should feel like. Um, and or maybe it just wasn't a correct fit. Maybe that
Yeah.
crown just didn't fit you.
Yeah, and there's people you see that were in your major that went on to do different things, became businessmen or women, and you say, hey, that's just more. It seems more your style too. It seems more your personality. Maybe teaching wasn't going to be your forte, but not looking at it like, oh, they were burnt out, they couldn't handle it, but maybe they just didn't have the right fit from the beginning, and they were kind of they're doing the best they could, but maybe they weren't getting that satisfaction that they needed.
Right. And it comes down to loving and caring more about others than yourself, and having the perspective and gaining that strength over time to ensure that you're in a good fit. I mean, let's face it, people change jobs all the time. They change jobs all the time.
Who would you say has had the biggest influence on you becoming a physical educator, leader in general of physical activity and health and well-being? Who was your biggest influence?
My biggest influence were two gentlemen. The first one's name was Larry McDonald. He went by Mac, and I say was because he recently passed away. He passed away in December.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, he was my biggest mentor. We were fortunate enough to work together at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, where he was the chief consultant in physical education, and I was his helper consultant. I was the normal guy. And then another individual that I really, really respect and I grew from is Jim Rich. He was the adapted physical education consultant for NCDPI. He's now retired. He's still alive and kicking. uh, and so between the two of those, I really learned what it meant to become a physical educator. Um, I wasn't a physical educator at the very beginning of my career. I uh, I was less than that. I wasn't taking it seriously. I didn't really put on the crown. I really didn't feel the burden. Um, I was thinking more about myself and what I could get and what I could gain.
Hmm.
Sorry to say.
Okay. And what is one of your current passions right now in the field, and how has it came to be that currently?
Yeah, my one of my current passions is just trying to help these younger physical education teachers and coaches understand the struggle, and it's tough. It's really hard. There's a great deal of politics, local politics, school-based politics, um, other things, and it's very distracting.
Hmm.
You're not able to focus in on your students, your athletes, your clients in the way that makes sense, makes the
Hmm.
best sense. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it is that way.
Okay. What is something that you flip flopped on that that you didn't know was ever gonna, you didn't think was gonna happen? I mean, you thought one way and then you kind of flipped and said, actually, it's this way. Is there anything that comes up in the field of physical activity and health that you feel like you flip flop on, where you've maybe been passionate toward one thing and then you kind of steered in a different direction, or do you feel like you've always kind of had the same views?
Well, in my career, like I had mentioned, I wanted to be a coach first, a gymnastics coach. I went on and got my master's degree because I thought I would really enjoy becoming a collegiate gymnastics coach, just like my coach. Um, my coach was outstanding. His name was Gordy Maddox, Coach Maddox, and he coached at Cal State LA, and he was actually hired to be the color commentator for the Wide World of Sports. This was a sporting program way before ESPN, ESPN2,
Hmm.
ESPNU. It was the sporting channel.
Wow.
The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
Well,
And so that was Wide World of Sports. And so I wanted to become a gymnastics coach like Coach Maddox until I started working with young kids. And that's when I flipped and flopped.
okay.
Both.
What have you taught? I'm sure you've taught gymnastics in physical education, correct?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And do you
Yeah.
feel like that's given you that same type of satisfaction in a way, or is there still something you kind of feel like you've
It,
left on the
it's uh,
table as a coach?
it's it's different working with elite athletes. I enjoyed that time, but I also realized that every student, a kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade student, every student needs a coach. If I could be a coach for an elite athlete and they deserve it, then I should be the coach for every student that walks into the gym because they deserve it.
What types of coaching experiences do you have?
Primarily gymnastics.
Hmm.
That was my specialty area. Unfortunately, I've never been a team sport person.
Hmm.
Um, I would have liked to explore that more, but I was totally focused on gymnastics.
Where was that? Is that high school or collegiate level?
This was high school in Los
Okay.
Angeles and the collegiate level as well in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah,
And was there strength and conditioning coaches then?
there were, but it was mostly for football,
Okay.
and really that was it. mostly
Yeah.
for football, from what I could remember.
How have you seen strength and conditioning evolve
I think it's
as coach?
becoming, oh yeah, I think it's becoming a necessity. If you do not have a strength and conditioning coach within your sport who really understands how to gain and maintain muscular strength appropriately, um, and in the relationship with that, having a good sports psychologist, I think you need to train your body as well as your the way that you view your body, which is sports psychology. I think you need both of those individuals, and sometimes you're able to find it in both of those aspects. You know, within a trainer or within a sports psychologist. It's you need to find a way to bring out the very best in yourself, in your sport, and in your life. And that takes many, many people to do that.
Hmm. Is there any inside motivation that you have that works best for you, or is it just kind of every day you wake up and you have that outlook?
I um I don't know if I should bring this up, Jordan. I'm a Christian. I believe in um, a higher power, a higher being. Every morning I get up, I reflect on that. Um, I work out in the morning. I walk. I read the Bible. I think about what's in store for me and how I could add more meaning to my life and to other people's lives through my faith and my journey. Um, it's just a part of me. Whenever I hear a sermon at church, I try to incorporate that into my teaching. Um, Not that we could do that, but it helps me to better understand myself. And if I can better understand myself, then I could be a better teacher for those children and youth that I serve.
Nice. What's one of your biggest obstacles that you've faced, um, and maybe something that's impacted you the most throughout your career that you've had to really maybe overcome? Maybe it's something personal. Maybe
I
it's not even.
uh, I'm a person who unfortunately is very critical. I'm, I'm sorry. I just happen to be very critical of our profession. I'm very critical of individuals that aren't doing their very best, aren't able to successfully meet the needs of the people that they serve. And that's wrong. I don't really need to be that critical. I need to find ways to make connections because it's all about relationships, Jordan. If your relationships at home with your wife and with your kids, if they're solid, everything's working well. If your relationships at school with your fellow colleagues, with your students are working out well, everything's good. But it's finding ways to add meaning to those relationships and not short circuiting yourself. Taking the time to establish those relationships and making sure that they're strong and capable of surviving. Sometimes for certain kids, it's just surviving the day, it's surviving the hour, surviving the night.
Do you feel like there's a thing as motivation? Do you think you can motivate people, or do you think that's not, motivation isn't really
I think
relative?
um, the answer is yes. I believe educators can motivate students and youth to make the right decisions, to be on the right path, to be on the right road. That's what coaches do. Coaches find ways to motivate individuals, and so do teachers.
Mhm.
Um, And as they do that, they change themselves.
When was the biggest change that you've had occur to yourself when it comes to developing relationships and realizing I need to make my relationships at home important? Like when was maybe was there a tipping point, or was it you've always been you've always had this point of view, or has it been like a circumstance that really helped you hone in on
Right,
what's important
right.
to you?
Um, I'll give an example. So, as I mentioned, I'm a former gymnast. I trained to be a gymnastics coach, a gymnastics teacher. I remember this little girl, her name was Allie, in kindergarten, and we were working on an inclined plane, a soft mat, doing the front row. She was very, very hesitant, very fearful. And I could have handled it a little bit better, but I got her into a front row position, and I lifted up her legs. She went into a pike position, and she did a front row. And I jumped up. I was so happy for her, right? Thinking that she would be happy for herself, knowing what she just accomplished. She had never done a front row before. And even though I had to help her, so I asked her, I said, Allie, that's terrific. How do you feel? And she said, in a very sad voice, Jordan, I feel scared, Mr. Kamiya.
Oh
I
no.
feel scared.
Uh-oh.
And that just broke my heart. I
Yeah.
mean, we're supposed to instill confidence. We're supposed to instill, oh, having faith in you and the things that you can do. And what I had done with Allie was just the opposite. I had destroyed her self-confidence. I had destroyed her love of movement. I hadn't really helped her. I thought I had, but I didn't. And because of that, I've decided that I just need a softer touch. Maybe it's a bunch of soft touches that helps the individual to learn how to do a front row, a backwards row, a cartwheel. It, but whatever it happens to be, we're moving towards that skill. But uh, the skill is less important than the connection and the relationship a coach has for their athletes or their students. That helped to remind me. And from that point on, I just, the older and the more mature I came as a teacher and a coach, the softer the touch. It just worked out that way. And I was able to reach out to more individuals that way.
So more of a progressive approach as opposed to laying it all out there, just kind of
Right.
little things here.
Yeah.
And developing connections and relationships in coaching and teaching and training is obviously number one. How can students maybe simulate that, or what would be a good lesson or activity for people to perform to maybe change that view? I know you said you like to talk. I know you said in prior conversations that you like to meet new people and see different perspectives. Is there other activities like that people can do to maybe develop better relationships with the people in their lives, or is it just simply starting at home?
I think I think people, coaches, teachers, individuals tend to seek comfort and do those things that they feel comfortable with. Well, that's fine, but you're not growing. When you go to a state convention or a workshop, you should take a look at the program and say, well, here's something I don't know anything about. Perhaps I'll pick that class or I'll listen to that speaker because I know zero about that content. And perhaps by doing that, I'll become a better teacher or coach or trainer. I'll be more well rounded because that's what we want our kids to become,
Right.
well
That's a
rounded with a lot of experiences. You don't have to be the best, but you want to have a lot of experiences so you can make those connections with more people. That's what I try to do, Jordan.
And how do you think elementary school teachers or people that are training or coaching or teaching youth, how do you think they should go about it? I know you said variety and getting different experiences. I mean, I don't believe that athletes should pick one sport and only do one sport. I think they should pick a plethora of sports. I guess, how do you view elementary physical education in 2021 if you're only getting it once a week, hopefully at best?
Right. It first of all, it needs to be skill based, not games based. I would rather that you teach the skills of throwing, kicking, striking, catching, dribbling, where every person has a piece of equipment versus just playing a whole bunch of different games,
How would
tag games.
you
You
how would
know,
you do you have a recipe for each lesson that you like to follow, a structure that could fit anyone's elementary PE lesson, or do you believe it's more complex than that?
when I was teaching, I did have like a 3 or 4 part lesson plan. You had a intro, a lead in, um, worked on specific skills, combined those skills with a partner activity, with a small group activity, eventually into a game like activity. Uh, Reviewed that, watch them. If I had some problems, I would back off. If a person wasn't throwing properly or catching properly, I just take a step back, reteach, and then move on. Uh, Everything I had outcomes that I wanted to see my students master. So at the end of 5th grade, before they move on to middle school, I wanted to make sure that every kid could throw to a moving person. In other words, lead the throw, being able to catch the throw on the run, catch the ball on the run, having better court awareness. These are just checklists of things that I wanted to accomplish. I had 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade checklists.
What are some types of progressions that you might take to create that scenario of being able to run and catch? What are maybe some
Well,
prerequisite
yeah,
skills?
I would just backwards map everything. I would just backwards map it. So, as an example, if if I want students to be able to catch a ball on the run, then first of all they need to have the ability to run in space. They need to run safely in open space. They need to look for open spots or positions that are undefended, so you could throw to that spot. It's just a lot of developing scenarios and situations where kids can be successful, but doing it in a very planned and manageable way, not just playing games.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of skills, a lot of drills, a lot of lead up opportunities in a variety of different ways, different type balls, things like that.
Cool. Um, how can people become a great teacher if they've never taught before, they're about to get into teaching, or they're currently a teacher, they want to take it to the next level? What is like a 1, 2, 3 approach to just simply being the best teacher you can be, or a
Yeah,
trainer or coach?
sure. Number one, you've got to be on the internet. You've got to be on the internet. You've got to have a presence on Twitter, on Facebook, perhaps Voxer. There are so many strong educators and teachers, and I'm just going to pick two: Twitter and Facebook. You have to know what a hashtag is. You got to know how to search hashtag phys ed or hashtag health ed, and find your leaders. Find the 2 or 3 people that resonate with you. Follow them. Watch their videos. Watch their YouTube channels. Try to become like-minded, and you'll be that way. Try to identify your heroes, emulate your heroes, and think like your heroes.
Okay.
Then all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself, you're a hero. You're a hero. You're a hero to your athletes, the students, and the other people that you serve.
Nice. Now, when you think of the word diversity in physical education or cultural inclusion, or culturally relevant pedagogy in physical education, are those just buzzwords or are those things that mean something to you?
Well, there are things that help us to connect with everyone. Um, we really need to try to find a way to feel and understand where the students are coming from, and they come from a variety of different backgrounds, uh, different home climates, different home environments. So anything we can do to be more inclusive, to be less exclusive, is always a good thing.
Um, when you think of the word communication, it gets kind of, there's books written on communication. There's obviously seminars on how to be a better communicator. Are there ways that you've developed your own communication skills, or is it just going out there on social media talking to people? Like, how do
Well,
you?
yeah, well, that's a good question. Primarily, I've learned more about myself by attending in-person sessions or conventions like our state convention, our national convention, regional conventions. And I'll find an individual, a presenter, that just has the energy and enthusiasm and that attracts me as a person. It's just like I'm a little bee and I'm trying to find other flowers to interface with. Certain presenters to me are attractive. They have high energy, they're enthusiastic, they know how to uh, use their voice or their tone in classroom management. Those are the people that I seek out. Um, they like to incorporate dance, even within sports skills. Those are the people that I like to seek out. Anyone that can help me to become a better and more enthusiastic educator, I'm there. I'm
Okay.
going to be in that person's session, his or her session.
What do you look forward to beside that the most when you go to conventions? Are you looking for new learning, or are you looking for new people, or both?
I'm looking for both. I'm looking for things. I know I have my strengths, and you have your strengths. Every person has their strengths and their not so strengths, right? I need to make my not so strengths a little bit stronger. If it's in swimming, I need, or diving or coaching, I need to make my not so strengths a little bit stronger so I could reach more people through aquatics or through gymnastics or through lacrosse, whatever that happens to be. Um, we have the opportunity to change the way people feel about themselves. If you think about it, no other content area really has that ability to do what we do in physical education, to change the way that people feel about themselves, that they're capable, that they're lovable, that they have skills, that they have leadership skills. I don't think you can learn that in a math class. I really don't. But through a strong athletic program or through a strong physical education program, I think people learn more about themselves, what they can do, and how to help others achieve what they want to do.
For sure. And I love the idea of allowing students to become leaders or teachers in the class to
Right.
really hone in on their cultural um, interests that may, in fact, be very relevant in the class. I know that when I allow my students to dance, most of the time they come up with better ideas and better dance moves. And
Right.
and if that's the case, then they're the leaders, they're the teachers. I always
Right.
let the best one teach, or the one that who has the most energy teach. And if it happens not to be me, and I have a student who's leading, and they want to take the class over, and they're doing it appropriate movements, obviously, I think
Yeah.
it's really important to give our students a chance. And that's why, with my recipe for adaptive physical activity, I basically broke it down into 6 segments where, we do breathing and mobility to start. We look at range of motion, we get the diaphragm going. We
Right.
know how important breathing is for mental state and also physical health. But just to reinforce that breathing matters too, like a
Right.
yoga class, you start with breathing and you end with breathing.
Mhm.
And then I like to do dance or dynamic movement with music. I think music, if you don't have a music player in physical education, then I don't think it's really physical education. I think you have to have some auditory beat for students to move around with, whether it's locomotor, dynamic movement, or
Right.
dance.
Yeah.
And or a narrative game that resembles a dance or resembles a dynamic movement that is interest of the student. So I always like to do that second. Something fun after, obviously breathing and mobility might not be the most fun, but hey, we got our dynamic warm up next. And then I like to get into sports skills. So that's where, you're any type of object control skill, whatever it is you happen to be focusing on that day or week. And then after that, I like to have some type of fitness activity. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to take out the steps in object control and have games. We might extend the object control section and have just a little bit of fitness or a little bit of dynamic dance. But I like to have the dynamic dance or movement after the breathing mobility, followed by the object control. And then once the body is totally warmed up and prepared, that's when I like to do fitness activities, obviously age appropriate.
Right.
If not fitness activities for high school students, more like fun games like crawling around on the ground and playing fun stuff if you're a kindergartner through 5th grader, that type of thing. And
Yep.
then I like to follow that up with a health lesson because I think health's important. I think it should be added in the phys ed curriculum. I think a good time to teach it is after physical activity. And it's also a good time for students to also stretch, focus on flexibility and health. And then also end it with discussions and questions. And so that's kind of my recipe I use right now with adaptive PE. And I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
That sounds very. I'm trying to think of a good word, George. I think that sounds very all-encompassing, very comprehensive to me. You
Yeah.
may not spend an equal amount of time for each of those, but over time, you're going to find and you're going to create a well-rounded, responsible individual that knows what he or her likes and dislikes, because not everyone's going to be a phenomenal basketball player or a baseball player or a volleyball player, but they're going to go with their strengths.
Right.
They're
And
going
I
to find the
mean,
activities they enjoy.
right. And I think that's what has worked the best in my circumstance because, the breathing and mobility, the replicating of the movement is pretty simplistic in that you just copy, right? And then
Right.
when it comes to the dynamic movement, we always talk about locomotor skills and how important they are. And so with music, locomotor skills, dance, narrative games, any type of dynamic stretching, if you're a little bit older, maybe you're not dancing that day, but still something dynamic, which prepares you for sport, right? So we don't just go out on the field and throw the ball. You may have to warm up a little bit. So I
Right.
kind of like that progressive approach, and then the strength, upper lower core exercises, and making sure you're hitting one of each, not just we're going to do upper body day or lower body day. So I always have 3 different exercises, and then the cool down will always encompass some stretches and a mini health lesson, which will be about something of topic that is in health education. But I just want to run that past you, and I got a couple more questions before we head out.
Sure.
What are you most grateful for right now in your life?
I'm most grateful for grandkids.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
like living through the
oh,
second
listen, yeah,
backseat, the
yeah,
backseat parent.
yeah. Grandkids are terrific. We happen to have four, two in High Point and two here in Durham. So yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, it's great to be a
What's your
grandparent.
favorite way to hold a baby?
Uh, in one arm with
One arm.
the head cradled in my hand, just kind of
Okay.
rocking. Yeah, that's my favorite way.
Do you like? What about putting it on the shoulder? Do you feel comfortable putting the
Yeah,
head on the
yeah, yeah,
shoulder?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Just it just depends, you know.
Diaper changes. You a pro?
Um, yes, I am not afraid of a messy diaper. That
I'm
is
I'm
never.
I'm telling you. I'll
Uh,
take care of that. I have a nice little routine set up.
yeah, yeah. It's hey, it, it's a good thing to change a messy diaper.
Another question. What genre of music would best describe you the most?
Folk, anything
Folk.
folk, yeah, folk, and I mean the old timey folk like uh, Joni Mitchell, James Taylor, Gordon Lightfoot, folk music. I listen. I
Okay.
love folk. I like folk dances too, but folk music just yeah.
Okay. Current training routine or unscheduled uh, physical activities that you
Well,
perform?
I love walking. I'll get up in the morning, walk. I have a 2.2 mile loop. Walk the loop, get up, go to Planet Fitness, get on the treadmill just for a little more cardio, hit the weights. Um, I love that the pull-up trainer and the bar dip trainer. Um, I don't do heavy sets like I used to. I just do low weights, high reps, and try to keep my cardio up and to have fun.
Okay.
Uh, that seems to work for me.
Do
That's
you have
what I
a
enjoy.
well, what's your breakfast right now or lunch? Or do you have typical breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah, breakfast for me is oatmeal, raisins, a banana, chop up a banana, um, half a cup of coffee. Lunch is typically a salad, a store-bought salad, maybe with half an avocado in there, maybe a full avocado. Um, Dinner happens to be a little less of a routine diet. We might go out to eat. My wife and I, we might go out to eat. We may stay in. I try to get all my good stuff uh, during my first two meals, and if I do anything out of the ordinary, and it typically happens to be dinner. Try to stay away from red meat, though. I'll do
What
chicken. I'll do
what's
fish.
what's your biggest I guess what food are you afraid to tell me that you eat?
Well,
Or
it's not red. It's
what
not
was the
red
last
meat because I
what was
don't.
the last
I
meal
try
you
not to
had?
eat them. I really can't think of a.
So you don't eat red meat at all or just lightly?
I try to stay away from red meat. That's just me.
Okay.
I About 4 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, I adopted a plant-based diet. It was just something I'd read about, and I just said I'm just going to try this. And guess what? Um, I used to take asthma medication. I've been an asthmatic since I've been a child. I don't use Ventolin.
Mm.
I am completely, I would say 90% asthma free. I can exercise. It's just funny. Once I went to plant-based, I believe it's because whatever is in red meat products, and it's whatever it is, it just doesn't inflame my lungs. It's just
Mm.
whatever it is, plant-based diet seemed to work for me.
Nice.
And I'm not going to say it's cured my asthma, but it's come pretty close.
Nice. Have you read the book Breath?
No.
Good book on
Okay.
mainly about the benefits of nostril breathing. I don't know if you know the
Okay.
benefits of nostril breathing.
No, I do not.
Very, very important for us to breathe through our nose because of our passageways are so complexly structured in a way that filters, moistens, and cleans the air
Okay.
that we breathe. And you
Well,
can regain the passageways if you don't currently breathe through the nose. But when you breathe through the nose, you actually get nitrous oxide, which is basically like laughing gas. And it's going to help your mood. Breathing through the nose is going to stimulate your diaphragm a little bit more than when you breathe through your mouth. You tend to be more of a chest breather, and you get your neck involved when you breathe with your mouth. And then keeping your mouth open as you breathe is actually helping air get inside your mouth. So I can
send me a link, Jordan.
I will.
Yeah. I am a heavy mouth breather.
Are you?
So I need to change.
We got to change it. Yeah, check out the book Breath. It talks about how our nasal passages were literally designed to breathe.
Well, that makes sense. Makes sense.
I'll send you something, but I appreciate that your time and coming on for us, and hopefully some future educators, trainers, or coaches can get a lot meeting from this podcast.
Well, thank you.
All right, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll see you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye.